that music.
Right. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Jake here with Uncommon EDC.
Tim from Tim's School of Fish. Welcome to episode 3 of Just the Tip.
Yeah, today's guest is Ben Belkin, owner and designer of Jack Wolf Knives. How's it going, Ben?
It's going great. Had a productive day. Really pleased to be here, and thanks for the invitation.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
My pleasure.
We got some. Let's see who's down here in the chat real quick. We got Andrew Baxter. I see Andrew.
Yeah, we got some regulars: Ghost Malone, Jesse McJames, moderator, of course, Randy's WSG. Definitely check him out.
B for Baron, how you doing? David Williams, Izzy, Israel Sapp. Thanks for being here, guys. Oh, Father EDC. I see Timmy here. Who's
good to see all you guys
tonight? Just Randy? Randy's the only one we got here.
Yeah,
tonight?
Randy. I modded up Ben and Donnie as well, just in case you guys want to drop links or anything in the chat at any point. But yeah, I think just Randy and us today.
Awesome. Before we get into it, if you guys are subscribed to my channel, but you're not subscribed to Jake at Uncommon EDC, make sure you go subscribe to him, follow him on Instagram, and of course, Jack Wolf Knives. Hit him up on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere that he can be found. You guys go and follow him on social media. So look, Ben, we've got some questions for you. So I'm going to jump right into it. If the conversation goes elsewhere, then that's where it goes. All right. So the first Jack Wolf model launched about 2 years ago, but I'm sure the process of getting that off the ground started long before that. Can you talk about some of the hurdles that you had to overcome early in the process of getting started with Jack Wolf Knives?
Sure. Well, I appreciate that question. It's some of that behind the scenes pain that you don't want everybody to see necessarily, but we all know it exists. So let's talk about some of that stuff. When I started the company, when I conceptualized it, it was in around my birthday, my 40th birthday. So November 2020. And, one of the initial hurdles was, how to design the knives that I had in my mind. How do you bring them onto paper? And I have some CAD experience. I was trained on it back in high school. I'm from the Detroit area, and our high school would pump kids into the auto industry. So we had a really good technical drafting and CAD program in my high school. And I really liked the teacher. So I took all those classes and kind of learned the fundamentals, but then I didn't use those skills for 20 years, basically. Yeah. And I thought there's no way I can even do that anymore. But when I tried to do it by pencil, it looked like I drew it with my foot, wasn't coming out right. So I was like, oh, man, I just got to see what CAD costs. There was a free trial for 30 days. And I was like, all right, how bad can it be? I already screwed this up bad enough with a pencil. I can't make it any worse with the CAD. And dude, it came back to me. It was like riding a bike. So that was cool. But my drawings in the beginning just looked not good, And so the first hurdle was learning how to draw these slip joints. I would start with just the handle and the blade sticking out, and I wouldn't draw any of the guts or the tang geometry and the spring. And then the factory can convert that for you and lay all that out. But then inevitably they have to change it to make parts fit. And I was like, well, now it doesn't look right. So I ended up buying a bunch of books and stuff and just doing the homework and putting dozens of hours into laying out all these parts until it started to work out for me. So that took a lot of resolve to get there. And, I've definitely gotten better at that. So then the next real challenge was the manufacturing. Now, it seems like, at that time, Riot was, they still are, don't get me wrong, but that was who I wanted to use. And I had an introduction to them through Enrique Pena, who is a friend of mine. Yeah. And so, I like to try to get an introduction instead of cold calling people. And I developed a relationship with them. We designed and produced 11 different prototype models. And I took those to Blade Show 2021 to introduce the knife community to my product line and, get the word out, talk to dealers, all that. And ultimately, COVID was really starting to kick off at that point, and demand was surging, and Riot got behind on their delivery. And so what was supposed to be 3 to 4 months became 12 months plus with no real specificity. And so that was actually the biggest hurdle, I think, because I had already told everybody like, oh yeah, end of the year, fourth quarter, we got this. So that was actually a really big setback. But in all honesty, I think it was a blessing in disguise because I found a new OEM that could execute my vision. And I had like a whole plan. Like, we want to roll these out on a monthly basis. And, this is how I want to roll out the money. And this is how we're going to stage everything. And this is when I'm going to send you material. It was like a whole scheme, Yeah. So that was good. Also too, the real hurdle is like keeping at it. It's that daily grind because it was, I kind of added it up. I had over 4,000 hours and deep into 6 figures before I ever sold anything.
Wow.
So like, at some point on that journey, you start second guessing yourself a little bit. You're like, oh my God, is this ever going to work?
That's a big leap of faith, man. When you're talking about 6 figures now, you're getting up there.
Right.
Totally.
And we're jumping around a little bit. But were you still working at that time, or were you all in on Jack Wolf Knives already?
So I still own and operate a business that I own and operate with my sisters. It's an Amazon-based business. It's a physical products business. And I've had that going since 2014. And like one of the catalysts for starting Jack Wolf Knives was like, I don't give a lot of passion for that. It's more just like going through the paces and, you you get to my age and I'm like, man, I'm really like, there's something missing in my life, like yes, I can make money doing this and this is great, but I'm not getting the satisfaction of producing something I'm like super proud of,
Right.
So I was able to subsidize the effort with my income from this, but it didn't pay for all of it. Like, I basically borrowed against all my assets to the gill to do it, because I knew like I had a plan and I knew what it was going to take to execute it. And, momentum is very important in business. So it's like, you can't just do a project. If you have a side hustle, this is one thing. Do a project, sell it, take the money, invest it in the next one. 4 to 6 months later, another knife comes out. Like, that's not a living. That's a side hustle.
Right.
Right.
So if you want to be regularly delivering knives to the market and satisfy distribution and get your product out there, like, you got to be hammering it all the time.
Was there ever a point there when you were 6 figures deep, and you're having all this, I need to do something that satisfies that itch? Was there ever a point there where you second guessed the whole thing and you said, shit, man, I don't know if this dream is going to come to fruition? Did you ever have those thoughts, or were you just like, this will work and I know it's going to work?
It's never a yes or no thing as much as it like, is this going to work out the way I think it's going to work out?
Right.
I guess I would say I had confidence in what I was doing. And I had, like I said, it's a vision, it's a plan. And as you are meeting your objectives on the plan, you rely on the fact that things are going, generally speaking, the way you thought they were. And you focus on the next step instead of worrying too much about what's going to happen,
Yeah.
And I've learned to be comfortable being uncomfortable because I've been an entrepreneur since 2013, and I've had several other enterprises I've tried completely shit the bed,
Well, that's what it is. Fail fast, fail forward, and just keep on going, man.
Because like the way I was sort of planning on things happening, it was kind of unfolding according to the plan, or sometimes in excess of my expectations. It's like, okay, like any reasonable person from the outside looking in is probably saying you're on the right track,
Yeah.
And it kind of felt like, I'll use an analogy, like let's say you're surfing and you go out there and you try to get on a wave, bam, right into the fucking ground. You try to get on another one, bam, right into the ground, nose full of salt water. And then you get up on one and you're like, okay, like this wave, it's like, I'm so close to falling off this thing, but it feels good. I think I can ride this baby. Like, that's kind of what it felt like. Like the whole time I was like, man, this thing could just toss me at any minute, but
Right.
We're going, and God damn it, I'm not going to fall. Whatever I can do to stay on this motherfucker, I'm going to do.
It's a hell of a ride though, right?
Hell of a ride, dude.
Yeah,
hell of a ride.
Awesome.
Takes over all your whole head.
I got a quick follow-up, Jake, that's off topic here. So I was a high school football coach for 20 years, and I heard you say you were from Detroit. Are you a Detroit Lions fan? Did you watch the game? And tell me what you think.
Yes, I'm a Detroit Lions fan. I have been my whole life. I mean, I've got 2 kids and I work pretty much 7 days a week. So I stopped watching them weekly about 3 or 4 years ago. I just gave up on these guys. It's the most painful fucking team in professional sports to cheer for, Yeah. I mean,
kind of heartbreaking too.
It's pretty close.
I feel you.
Yeah.
So I didn't watch a game the whole season. And of course I tuned in to watch that game. And dude, all the emotion came rushing back of being a Lions fan. Like, damn it.
Speaking of being up on that wave and then being tossed and getting a mouthful of salt water, that's what that game had to have felt like for you, because I was sitting there on my couch going, the freaking Lions, man, they are going to do it. They're going to the Super Bowl. And then the second half happened. And I was like, son of a bitch, look at this, man.
That was their game to win. And San Francisco made the big plays and Detroit didn't in the second half. I mean, that's really what it boiled down to, man. Those drop passes, missed interceptions, didn't convert on, fumble, didn't convert on 3rd or 4th down. And I was like, may the best team win.
They're young. They're young. All their superstars are 3 years or less in the league. I think they'll be back. I like them. I like that team. The Miami Dolphins is my team, but it's easy to root for the Lions. Okay, I'm done talking football. I could do that shit all night. So go ahead, Jake.
So back to that, I guess, initial plan. Was the plan always about 10 knives a year? And is that still what you're targeting?
Yeah, my plan. So my plan was to, aim for monthly releases, because I structured, first of all, I steal from the best, Bill Howard, Great Eastern Cutlery. I love the way this guy produces knives. He does one model at a time, rolls through the catalogs, sometimes he doesn't come back to a model for 1, 3, 5, 6 years. He's got a huge catalog of traditional knives, and and he doesn't tell you what's coming next. They give you a little sneak teasers and stuff, but I just love that. I love the anticipation. I love hey man, finally he's making this thing. If you really want it, get it, because you might not see this again. So I totally stole that from Bill, that whole concept. And if you think about it from a production standpoint, it's great because you can schedule these things out in advance. There's certainty. You can say to the manufacturer, okay, period 1, we're doing this knife in this quantity. Period 2, we're doing this knife in this quantity, and so on. Instead of just going to the market and saying, put in your orders. Oh, I need 40 of these and 32 of these and 16 of these. And there's no sort of forward planning for what's coming down the pipeline. Right. So there was 2 reasons. There was, and another reason was business has a heartbeat. It has a rhythm, right? So, the money comes in, the money goes out. The money comes in, the money goes out. Product goes in, people get excited. They kind of come down from the excitement. They're ready for something more, and so on, and so on, and so on. You hit them too frequently, it's too much. You wait too long to hit them again, and they've lost interest in you, So and the other thing too, from that periodic standpoint, is you can build a promotional schedule around it. Okay, we're going to release on this day of the month. And then 2 weeks before then, we're going to announce. And then, and in between, we're going to do a giveaway and we're going to do this. And that's how I like to approach things. I like structure.
Right.
So it was really me wanting to have a business plan that used periodic deliveries, and then how that from the top down drives a production schedule, a promotional schedule, and then the timing of when you order materials, and then also your relationship with your dealers. Like, they like to know that product is coming, So if you can tell them, like, all right, man, basically we just got to talk, quarterly is how I communicate with my dealers, at least quarterly, to talk about, a future quarter's knives. And then we agree to those quantities, and like, you get an invoice and a box of knives in the mail, and then I'll talk to you again in 3 months,
Right.
So, yeah.
With those quantities, are they always equal between the different covers, or do you kind of anticipate, like, this month that glow carbon fiber is going to be popular? Maybe I should put a little more in for that one.
It's so funny you asked me that, because no, like, they're evenly distributed right now. I had a dealer in one of my recent conversations say, like, hey man, why don't you double down on the one is going to be popular? I'm like, dude, I wish I knew the one that was going to be popular.
Right.
I don't have that magic 8-ball. And sometimes we don't know until we see them.
Right.
Because I've got to conceptualize these things in my mind and then fill out a spreadsheet and be like, this is what I want, And then you're committed. The money's committed, the materials purchase, all that. And then you finally get like a pre-production batch and you're like, dang, look at this, man. This is sick. But by then you can't get more or anything.
Yeah.
Right. And that same thing happened to me this month. Every release, I'm looking at that jig titanium and I'm like, oh, let's go for something a little bit more flashy. This month you just sent out the jig titanium. And I'm like, man, why didn't I get this every time? It's so nice. The dark wash on it's so incredible. And
see,
you don't even know yourself.
This speaks to exactly what you just said, Ben. Like, Jake's talking about how he loves the jig titanium. I love the freaking Kieranite. You know what I mean? So how can you predict what's going to be popular? It's so subjective.
It's so subjective. And if I double down on one and it works, great. If I double down on one and it doesn't, now we're swamped with those. Yeah, so my strategy has been to just kind of not try to pick winners, but just try to pick the strongest selection we can. And the psychology of it is so fascinating, man, because like on one production run, Nebula, Big Bros, bam, dude, it was like gone. And then I use Nebula again and it's in like 3rd place. And I'm like, because it's not Nebula itself, it's what are the other choices and how do these choices suit this model?
Right.
Yeah, true. So this was a question. Go ahead, Jake.
I was going to say, and now that micarta is gone, I see every 2 days in the Facebook group, we're going to see micarta again. But when those were out, those weren't the popular models. And so,
it's just one of those things, man. It's like, are you guys a vocal minority? Is there really a hidden demand for this? And it's like, you have to balance those things. There's no like what everybody says is right or what everybody says is wrong. It's neither of those things. It's like, I've got sales data. I've got what the community's talking about. I've got what this other guy did that's really popular to consider. I've got the fact I haven't used this in a while. I've got the fact that I can't do another purple one because there's already a purple one, and I can't have 2 purples in a batch. And it's the hardest thing we do is picking those configurations. It's my least favorite thing to do, probably, because it's so agonizing.
Yeah,
agonizing, dude.
And
because you can't. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you do a good enough job that it's always a tough choice. There's always 2 or 3 that most people are going to like, and maybe they don't like all 5, but there's always a couple in there that you're like, which one do I choose if you're only choosing one? And I have some where I've chosen more than one,
The best compliment to me is when someone's like, I literally could not make up my mind. I'm like, yes, because I don't want everybody to want the same one. I'm like, damn.
Right.
And it happens more often than not, honestly, where like there's just one that everybody wants. And then someone's like, dude, why didn't you make more of those? I'm like, what about the other 4? Like, you have to have that one. Like, you got to be like everybody else. Get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So Rich left us gave us a donation there, and this is one of the questions that we were going to ask you later. Thank you, Dick Ritchie, for that. So I'll just go ahead and ask you now. And I know that you have talked about this before, but will there ever be a Jack Wolf budget line where maybe you use some traditional materials, maybe a different blade steel? I know you've talked about it. Can you talk a little bit about that for us?
Yes. So here's what I will say. I can't say a definitive yes, but I'm definitely not going to say a definitive no. Like, I'm not only am I contemplating it, I'm working on it. But just because I work on something doesn't mean it's going to make sense.
Right.
There's a lot of factors to consider. Like, what I will not do is sacrifice quality for any reason whatsoever. We can bring the trim down, use less expensive materials. I'm fine with that. But I will not associate my brand with poor quality. I just won't. Yeah. You know, and I guess that's subjective because it's always for the price. You know what I'm saying? So let me clarify what I said. You expect a certain level of fit and finish and build quality with a Jack Wolf knife. That must be maintained, even if it's at a different price point. That's what I'm trying to say. Right. You know, there's $60, $80 knives that are exceptional quality. They don't necessarily stack up to a $300 knife, but that's not to say they're poor quality, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So I don't want people to read that wrong. But yeah, I'm thinking about it, guys. I really am. And, you know, the market is not the same as it was a year and a half ago. And so I think everybody's dollars are stretched a little bit with the inflation that we've been getting kicked with for at least a year, you know?
I'm in the mortgage business, so I am feeling that inflation kick really hard at the moment.
Yeah, dude.
So,
I believe it. I believe it.
It's tough sledding right now, brother.
Yeah. One of the questions I had on here also was I was on, I think, the Slip Joint Exchange, and someone posted, why should I buy a Jack Wolf knife over a line steel knife with the same materials at half the price, made in Italy? And I thought you had a super nuanced response to that and made a lot of sense to me. So I was wondering if you could rehash that a little bit.
Yeah. And so it's a great question. And on the surface, it's the obvious question, you know, and the devil is in the details of how these knives are made. And so just to kind of sum this up, if you look at a line steel slip joint knife, I mean, first of all, I don't want to denigrate those knives. They're great knives for what they cost. Okay. And what they are is a series of parts that are mass produced and then assembled. I call them parts bins knives because there's probably a bin of blades and a bin of scales and a bin of liners, and then pull, rivet, off it goes. There's no hand work. There's no hafting. There's no grinding blades by hand, cutting swedges by hand. Nail nicks are not real crisp. All the edges on the spines are crowned. There's chamfers where the blade meets the spring. All these things are done to increase production time and hide the fact that parts are not hand fitted. So that's where a Jack Wolf knife is different. A Jack Wolf knife is assembled. So first of all, the blades are ground by hand. All the parts are precision made, CNC wire EDM, like super precise. The knife is assembled. It's ground as an assembly. So dude takes it, it's fully assembled, grinds the spine so that the spine of the blade, the spring, the scale material, all that is now seamless, basically. But when you do that to a certain knife, its parts are not going to perfectly match another knife because that was a hand operation. And so it's called hafting. Once you haft a knife, those parts are mated forever. And so if you look inside a Jack Wolf, all the parts are numbered. So they grind all these, they grind this knife as an assembly. All the parts are numbered. Then they have to be disassembled and then refinished because you've ground the surface. So they have to be reblasted and all that. And then they're reassembled. And so there's skilled hand labor and it's a slower production process and it drives up the price, you know? Grinding blades by hand drives up the price. And I see this because I'll have multiples, but I'll put like multiples out from one model, and like all these wedges are a little bit different, you know. All these blade grounds are a little bit different. Like this one's not perfectly symmetrical, and it's like that's okay because you're actually paying for that level of skilled hand labor.
Right. And I thought a good example of that's actually the after hours jack, which is obviously a modern, but the pocket clip is the plug is individually numbered to match the one that's in the tube with you, so it won't fit on someone else's knife.
Yeah, and what it is if we were mass producing those plugs, then they wouldn't be perfectly flush with your scale material. Right. So yeah, I mean, that's just one of the things. It's what I wanted was a certain level of build quality with these things. And like, that was going to dictate the price. It wasn't like, we're going to build this knife to a price point. Obviously you don't want it to be astronomical, but it's like, I know what a really nice custom knife is like, and I know what they cost. And I know what secondary GEC prices are, anywhere from, especially at the time, $300 or more for the most desirable pieces. And even regular run of the mill stuff was over 200. So it's like line steel for 150 leaves a little something to be desired, and fit and finish, if you can appreciate the fit and finish of a custom knife, you know. If that's all you want in your life, great. But if you like the fit and finish of a handmade slip joint, that doesn't really give it to you, in my opinion. Now, Great Eastern Cutlery does give it to you, but you're going to pay premiums for it, and you're not getting modern. You know, you're not getting modern. I would never try to make like true. Well, I don't want to say never, but trying to make true traditional knives to compete with Bill Howard, like, good luck. You know, especially in America, like no one can out cutler. Is that a word? Out cutler that guy.
It is.
No one can out cutler the cutler. Yeah. So then I saw the modern traditional. I was like, hey, there's $150 modern traditional, but there isn't something in between the $500+ custom and the $150 line steel. There's nothing really in the middle. And so I was like, let's go right there.
Right. And that was one of my questions for you, actually, is there even a cutlery shop in the US that does OEM work that could make a modern slip joint, has history making modern slip joints, could meet your level of quality and also your production schedule? Does that even exist in the US?
No, not with slip joints. I mean, look, you see what's happening with people just trying to get modern folders made by US OEMs. It's a nightmare. Like the one name that everybody was throwing around in the last year was Shank. And I've seen some less than flattering Instagram posts about that guy's business practices. Yeah. You know, I'm not making any accusations. I'm just saying what I saw. And, you know, I can say I'm glad I didn't send any money that guy's way.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah. So it's tough, dude. I think if I'm ever going to do a USA project, it will be grow the company to a point where it's big enough that I can start small and invest in the machinery to do my own small batch stuff, you know?
Yeah. So this is going in a completely different direction. Jake mentioned the tube. So I have a couple things on these pogs that's included. How did that come about? And will we ever see a slammer with a Jack Wolf knife?
Yeah. So, okay. Everybody does stickers. Even I do stickers. Right. And Great Eastern Cutlery does these lapel pins. They're like this big, and they have, like a pin that goes to your shirt. And if you look at my packaging, I was trying to modernize the traditional knife packaging. So I was like, okay, I'll take a cardboard tube. I'll make it a metal tube. I'll go from what is like early 1900s, late 1800s inspired artwork that GEC does, and I'll have modern comic book style artwork. I'm like, but what do I do about the lapel pin? I'm like, I don't wear lapel pins, but they're kind of a cool collectible. And I like nostalgia is a big part of what I do, like 80s and 90s nostalgia. So I was like, man, a pog would be perfect for this thing because it fit. And there's like a small little window of dudes who were born at the right time to have experienced in their life, who will know what it is, and no one else will know what the hell it is, but whatever. if I can actually find them. And dude, I found a guy who makes them. I couldn't
Nice.
believe it.
Very
So
And it's
yeah, I
perfect
just want.
because they come in a pog tube, basically.
That's right. That's right. And the cool thing too is like the art on the can is on a cylindrical surface. So you kind of have to turn the can to see the art. But when you have the pog, you have the art in 2D.
Right.
So it's just another way to appreciate the art. And I can stretch the art a little further too,
Right. Right. I've been really into like the other products you're doing with the art. You have the hangs, you have like the wall art, have some of the wall art hanging around the house, and also the hangs.
Dude,
Yeah,
there's
more
more
cool
cool
make use
stuff
of that.
coming.
I like those posters. I was eyeing them today. Speaking of other products, I got a notification today that new coin is out. So
I brought it.
you guys, yeah. Oh,
Now this could be a slammer all day long,
There
Yeah.
you go.
Pretty heavy slammer though. You might be damaging those fogs.
Yeah, maybe. It is definitely pretty stout. I did do
That's nice,
these
bro. That's
acrylics.
nice.
I did these acrylic slammers. If you've ever seen them, they're orange with a laser etch wolf logo. I did 1,000 of them, and I took them to blade shows and gave them away for free to people.
Nice.
I should probably do another run of those because I got them from the Pog guy. But this came out great, I think.
I think it's awesome, brother.
Yeah,
I love it.
I like how they're
I
like
love it.
3D too. Like the Facebook group coin for 1,000 in the Facebook group, you can use it as a spinner, like because the nose is kind of protruded out a little bit further than everything else.
Dude, I did not know that. That's great.
Yeah, I'm actually spinning it on my desk right now.
Nice.
So speaking of tubes, do you have a favorite tube art design?
Man, that's tough. I don't know. I have a hard time picking favorites. I try not to be. My philosophy is that, and it sounds like a cop out, but I really believe it's true that comparison is the thief of joy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like, why does something always have to be better than something else? Like, why can't I just like stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
Like
I
a
get it.
lot of them, I had creative input into every single one of those. Like never do I just say, draw something and send it to me. It's like, we have a brainstorming session. We talk about what the art is. We talk about like, how can we tie some pop culture into it, some nostalgia. So I don't know, man. I can tell you the one that gets ordered the most from my website, which might surprise you, is the Midnight Jack first artwork where he's on the cliff howling at the moon. I think we've sold more of those than anything else.
Nice.
That's
Go
cool.
ahead.
And like Sean Tiffany's doing all the first releases and Jay Gonzo's doing all the second releases. And it's been so cool working with both those guys because they have like distinctly different styles, but it's just fun to work with artists. And like I've learned, you give them a little bit of guidance, but then like let them do their thing, man. The more you try to dictate that stuff, the less you're happy with what you actually get.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Marine X he joined us last week and hit us with a donation, got us with another one. Thank you, brother. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely. Yeah. Check out Jack Wolf. So switching go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, switching gears completely, outside of your own brand, obviously, what are the knife brands that you're into?
Sure. So I was an obsessive Great Eastern Cutlery collector.
Yeah, we knew that.
I really focused in on the number 15 pattern. I was trying to get all of them, every single one they ever made, which after you get into that far enough, you realize that's like a fool's errand because, eventually you're like, I just need to buy it just to buy it. And then, like when I finally reached that point, I'm like, this is kind of sucking the fun out of this for me. Now I'm just like chasing some unrealistic goal and just to prove to myself I can do it or something.
Right.
But I love those knives. And I brought a few examples. I'll show off some.
Yeah.
So
make you full screen here.
Yeah, sure. So I brought some of my EDC rotation GECs. I brought some TC Barlows. So
awesome.
This is a clip point, long pull. I can't remember if this is ebony or African blackwood. I can't ever tell the difference. But 2012. So first year of the TC Barlow.
Nice. Has some nice patina going on that too.
Yeah, exactly. And so to find one of these mint anymore is pretty tough. So that's and then this is also number 15. And this is Sao Paulo wood. I can't even remember the name anymore. It's been so long since I really focused on this stuff, but sheep's foot, pretty cool.
Nice. Love sheep's
Love
foot.
it.
And this wood kind of has like a chatoyance to it. I don't know if it's coming through on this, but pretty cool. Then they did these. This is a highly sought after one. This is called the Ancient Barlow Scratted Parchment Bone. And so what they did was
a lamb's foot.
Yeah, they call that a lamb's foot.
Yeah.
And so this was they aged these like in the shop with like, I don't know how they did it, salt or acid or something. And so these spots, they aged these. That's why they call it an Ancient Barlow. It has this like really cool swedge. And Charlie Campagna had a unique stamp.
Oh, that's cool.
I've not seen that one. That one is sweet, dude.
This one is sweet.
I love it.
And then this one is a spear point. This was from the very first run of Great Eastern Cutlery TC Barlows, marked PPP for Pattern Production Premier or Production Pattern Premier. And this is a saw cut bone, which is really cool. I think amber saw cut bone or something like that.
Yeah, I love that one.
Notice every blade shape has been different. That's one of the cool things about traditional knives is you can have the same pattern or handle shape and have different blade shapes. And then this is called a spay blade.
Yeah.
And these were called New Day. A New Day. See it there in the edge. Yeah. And so this is African Blackwood, I believe. And spay blade.
Look at that long pull. That might be the longest freaking long pull I've ever seen.
Whoops. Hold on. I dropped it. First on my computer, then on the floor.
The computer is fine. The floor is
I gouged
on it.
The number 1 key. So yeah, it's all good. Long pull. And
nice.
And that one tucks in pretty tight.
Are there any others, or is it just all GEC all the time?
No, this is a number 86 Barlow. So for modern knives, I really like Chris Reeve. I know that's kind of boring probably for these days because, they've been around and they're not, I don't know, maybe the most cutting edge, but I do have a little Chris Reeve collection here in my vault case. And there's one that doesn't fit in there. And I really like these.
Nice.
Nundy.
Yeah.
Kind of got a traditional vibe
right?
to it. Yeah. Now the Chris Reeve slip joint is the Impinda.
Nkosi? Or no, the Nkosi's
Impinda or something like that.
Yeah.
And they had some kind of alternative mechanism in it to change the way it cams open and closed. And it didn't suit me because I like traditional walk and talk.
Right.
So, I mean, they kind of strayed away from traditional construction. So didn't really push my buttons. But I like Sebenza 21s.
Yeah.
So I got 2 bigs and 2 smalls. I've got a Cocobolo. This was the first one I ever bought, probably over 10 years ago for sure. And so this is a drop point Cocobolo inlay, and then this is a plain Jane, also a drop point.
Nice.
And then these are lefties, by the way. That was one of the reasons I was drawn to them initially because they make lefty folders. And then this is a Micarta Insingo, and then this is a Wilson Combat. No, this is a Micarta Tonto, and this is a Wilson Combat Insingo. So that's my little Chris Reeve family.
Nice.
Yeah,
not many companies do like exclusive left-hand models. Obviously, you have a lot of the ambidextrous, but
you want to see some cool custom slip joints? I started collecting those before I started my stuff. So let's look at
No, I don't want to see any cool custom slip joints. That shit.
It's going to cost you too much money.
Right.
So Enrique's actually made a few slip joints recently, but he really stopped for a while. These are both Peñas. This is called the Mini Zulu, and this is a little Trapper. And these are bog oak.
Freaking gorgeous.
And he looks like a spear point and a clip point.
Yeah, I'll pull them open for you. Look at that thing.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, this is what, I don't know what he would charge today for something like this.
Well, I know
at least 800, but probably more. anymore.
I love that blade.
Yeah. And like they sound great, and
Yeah, that walk and talk's
they're
insane.
just, and then this is the mini Zulu right here.
Oh, I like that one too.
One thing Enrique does better than anybody is his lines, and you'll see
Yeah,
inspiration
yeah.
from his stuff in me. I mean, I could only hope to be as talented as this guy, because he knows how to make them perfect, and he has the eye for how things need to look. And then
Right.
check this thing out: jigged paper micarta,
Oh, nice.
Oh wow.
toxic
Those
green
liners are sick
liners.
too.
It's a Raptor slip joint.
Nice. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I think
like that one too.
Tom just got one of his. I don't know if you saw that video. It was like got a $1,600 custom with that bottom lock.
That was an Osier.
Oh, is that an Ozer? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, so do you guys know who Ryuichi Kawamura is?
No, I don't.
All right, dude. Check
I
this
googled
thing
him the
out.
other day actually, and
What?
wasn't able
What
to
is
find
that?
anything like current for sale. Does he still make knives?
He does, man. You just hit him up, and I mean, he's expensive, but look at this, dude. Have you ever seen anything like this? This is
No.
Insane.
this is a
Oh, Jesus.
so did you find his website, Jake?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You know, his English isn't the best, but he'll write you in English, and you just tell him what you want. And I don't buy a lot of stag, but he gets the best stag. Look at how the shield like stands over
Right. It's-
the
Yeah.
scale, dude. And look at how tight all that is. Now he doesn't he doesn't have a kick like
Right.
Pena's did in
Yeah.
mine,
Yeah.
but it's actually on the spring. It's built into the spring.
Oh,
I
interesting.
see
Yeah, I
that.
can see that.
Nice.
Yep.
Oh, hell
It's like
yeah.
a different style. And this is a lockback. So he does like a little step down right there instead of having it blend seamlessly. But that's just, I think it's like the Sheffield style or something.
Yeah,
And look at this
that's
thing.
insane. People
Wow.
can't see us, but both me and Tim were like leaning, trying to look into the.
Yeah.
Can you see me? Can you see me, Jake? I'm like leaning
Yeah.
in, drooling. Holy shit.
So this
That's
is
like is that a teardrop?
yeah, it's called a tear. It's a Tony Bowes pattern. It's a harness jack. So it's a teardrop or a bullet end. Look at that spear point, dude. All fat.
I feel like all of my knives suck right now.
And it has a
Everyone.
all.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Oh, that's next level shit.
This is top. This is cream of the crop. You know what
That's
I mean?
amazing.
And then I'll show you one more. This is a Pina. Now, Enrique hasn't made anything like this since early in his career. This is early Enrique stuff.
Wow.
This is a Eureka cattle knife, I think.
Nice.
So it's got the hump, and then there's 3 blades. And like, look at the offset grind on that blade.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I was seeing. Oh,
That's
wow.
both of them. Both these blades have them.
Yeah.
Let me pull these out. Look at that.
Ooh.
And then
Wow.
there you go.
That's
Look how cool that
Yeah.
jigging is, man.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
killer.
These are like, I'm not going to call them museum pieces because, you know, they're not in a museum, but they're
Yeah,
as
but
nice
those-
as it gets as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And so like you could see why having collected items like these, like I wanted something that like you buy these knives and you don't ever want to use them. Like
Yeah.
these stay in a safe, you know?
Right.
But I wanted to be able to produce something that guys who can, you know, maybe collect this kind of stuff could buy and
Yeah.
use, you know,
Right.
Yeah.
if they lost it, they wouldn't cry, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
And then I'll show you one other, there's 2 other makers I want to show you. That's all I
Alright.
got left. So
Are you still chasing customs, or are you
no,
mostly out of the game nowadays?
I'm out of the game, dude. I'm literally drowning in knives now, you know, like I've satisfied the itch has been scratched because there's knives everywhere. So do you guys know about Ricardo Romano?
Yeah.
So Romano
Me
is
and
in,
Jake.
Romano's in Brazil,
Oh,
and this is Westinghouse, and this is his Lanny's clip.
That's bone.
This is it's antique Westinghouse micarta.
Oh,
Oh, interesting.
that's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
so this is the best stuff. Like the best micarta is antique Westinghouse, and it's got that fade.
Yeah, that looks insane.
Yeah.
So what's this guy? Who is this again?
Ricardo Romano. I think on Instagram he's called Cut 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 Romano. His work is just absolutely gorgeous. It's very like I don't know how to describe it, man. It's got that like Latin soul, and maybe I'm just making that up, but that's how it looks to me. So
no, I can feel that. I just wrote that down because that's something I'll never have, but aspire to. That is ridiculous.
All right, and I'll tell you who is slept on, and like if you can call him and get on his books, you wanna get a knife from him, and his name's Brett Dowell out of Oklahoma. Do you know Brett Dowell?
I don't think I've heard that one.
So this, you know what this stuff's made out of, don't you?
Ivory?
Yeah, they call it African goat horn, but it's elephant ivory.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they can't call it ivory because the PETA and shit will come after them, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's all pre-ban. It's all responsibly sourced stuff, but like rules have changed about this stuff. But this is a dog leg from Dowell.
Gorgeous.
And then this one is a
look at that
rabbit.
shield.
What is that? Yeah, I was gonna say, what is that shield?
It's called a corset shield.
Oh yes.
And this is a sow belly with a skinner blade, like a rabbit skinner blade.
I don't know what people in the chat are thinking or saying right now, but I could look at this shit all day. This is ridiculous. Me and Jake are both like leaned in.
Yeah,
that's awesome, dude.
I love slip joints. I love them.
Man.
It started with case. Quickly, I was unsatisfied with case. I bought a couple of them. Like I bought a couple on Amazon. I opened the box. The damn shield fell out. I was like, what? The fuck is that? And so then I got GEC, and I was like, it was like doing drugs, dude. I was hooked. I was hooked. And I was just like, yes, like this is what I want. This is what I love. And I got hard into those for a while. And then I saw Enrique's work. And I was like, whoa, I was like, holy crap. I saw the first one I ever bought from him had this. It was like an antique paper micarta, like a yellow micarta, like layered paper.
Right.
And I bought a Lanny's clip in it and one of those little trappers in it. And, with Enrique back in the day, I'm sure he still works similarly now, but you just called him up, and talked to him about what you wanted.
Right.
And we kind of built a friendship. And then once you start, you know how it is, dude, once you get a taste of the good stuff, it's hard to not want more of it.
Right.
So I started investing, isn't the right word, but we could lie to ourselves and say they're investments. I started investing.
All investments.
I still call it that, and I've never sold a single knife, but I still call it investing.
I'm sure every one that I've ever bought, I'd probably lose money on if I tried to sell them right now. But you know what? I enjoy them. That's why I buy them.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. So were you always a knife guy, and were you always a slip joint guy? How did it start?
Always a knife guy, dude. Always a knife guy. My whole life. It started with Swiss Army knives when I was like as little as I could, as far back as I can remember. So I named the company after my grandpa. Jack Wolf was my grandfather's name. Jack Wolf Belkin.
When I would go,
name. Oh, dude, he had the best name. I was like, what a cool name. When they lived, I don't know, like 2-3 miles away, my grandparents. So we would go over there all the time, hang out, eat dinner. And he was a builder, and he loved Swiss Army knives because all the little tools, And so I was just looked up to him. I thought he was the coolest dude. And he always had his Swiss. He had like a dump tray back when like no one was talking about a dump tray, but it was like one of my grandma's like crystal plates. It wasn't like a fancy leather one. He like stole it from my grandma. It was like a serving dish, and he would
put it out of the china cabinet.
Totally, dude. And it was like up on his dresser, and he would put his keys and his money clip and his wallet and his Swiss Army knife in there. And I would like go in there and get the Swiss Army knife, play with it, take it home, And my
Nice.
grandpa would be like, "Hey, bring that knife back. You keep stealing my knife," you know?
Right.
And I was hooked, dude. And my parents were cool. They like let me have knives. They would go bring me as souvenirs if they would go somewhere, Swiss Army knives. I started building a little collection. And then when I was old enough, you know, dude, 80s, 90s, all the action movies and stuff, like I had to have ninja stars. I had to have like a dart gun. You know, I had to have like
The
fantasy
Rambo knife.
knives. Rambo
Yeah.
knives, dude. I got the Rambo 2. I
Yeah.
got the Rambo 3, like not the real ones, the United Cutlery
No,
ones.
the shit
Junk
with
ones.
the little
Yeah.
the compass on it with the screws off and has a hollow tube.
That's right, dude. A little plastic thing inside looks like
Yes.
chapstick with matches in it. And
Yes.
I had like this Mortal Kombat, like Gil Hibben fantasy knife. And dude, I had
Nice.
all that crap. I had like a little showcase on my wall with all my flea market knives in it. And I
Nice.
used to buy them out of catalogs, and I loved it, dude. I was just all about it. Love
That's
knives.
sick. That's sick. Duty
That's
was
awesome.
asking what's the difference in feeling between those knives you were showing earlier, all the customs, and a GEC?
Trying to figure out how to answer that question, Kevin. There is a difference. There's no doubt about it. How the difference in the feeling, like, you know, if you were blind and someone handed you one and you worked them both, you know, they walk and talk really good. I just think the customs, they use thicker springs, thicker blade stock, so everything just feels a little more stout. They have different sound, and the fit and finish is extremely good. Now, look, Great Eastern Cutlery knife is damn near a custom knife. Like, if you guys have ever been there, there's like, Bill Howard will tell you, there's over 200 procedures, individual procedures on a multi-blade knife.
Yeah.
Many of these procedures are done by craftsmen by hand. So what's the difference? You know, honestly,
Custom.
it's just
custom.
these are mass produced. These are slow made. Like Ryu Kawamura calls them a slow made knife. So, I mean, dude, if Great Eastern's prices, if they were retailing these things for $300, they'd still sell, in my opinion. You know,
Yeah.
That's what
because
most of
I
us
think
are paying on the secondary.
100%. So I think, and I'll say this, as you spend more, the return diminishes, you know, like that's just kind of how it is. Like, you know, you get a jump from a Toyota to a Lexus, and then from Lexus to a Rolls Royce. Like, it ain't that much nicer, but you paid an extra 200,000, you know,
Right.
it's
Right.
nicer in every regard, but it's 200,000 to get there, you know. It's like that jump from like 80% to 90% costs you this, and then the jump from 90 to 100 costs you this. And that's just how it is. And so if you're willing to get the best, that's what this represents. You're going to pay for it. It doesn't mean that's a better value. It's just that's what it costs.
Yeah.
Right. And on that Ryu Karamari lockback, when you open that, it looked mechanical. It looked almost like you were opening like a Chris Reeve or something like that. It's just
you can just see how smooth that is. Look at, come on.
Essentially it's nearly perfect. Like you'll never hear me call something perfect, but dude, it's money.
I'm done.
It's like almost hydraulic, I guess is what I was getting at.
Oh, it is. And it's literally like glass. There is nothing. Yeah. These are nice. And Ozer's are like that, you know, his lockbacks are like that.
I mean, there's some knives that I've seen that you can literally see how smooth the action is. You know what I mean? You can see it. And on that, you can just see it. It just looks like glass. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Someone asked if I saw a question. Do you have an Esnix? So that's Evan Nicolaitis. That's another dude who, I mean, people know him now because of his silver line, but like his stuff is amazing. I don't own one. I own another guy is Birdviz. I own one of these, and Nick is super freaking cool. I mean, I essentially wanted to support him, you know, so I bought this. I didn't need this like I needed any of these, but you know, I like this. Don't get me wrong, but you know how like we want to support the guys we really like.
Yeah, of
Well,
course.
this guy's so freaking cool. I was like proud to buy his stuff. And it's not that the quality's not there. 100% it is. He jewels his liners on the inside. I don't know if I can get that to show. You know, kind of like on a Smith & Wesson hammer, like on the old wheel guns. Anyway, his stuff's awesome. Esnix's stuff is awesome. Those guys are all top shelf. So, Randy, I don't own any Rosecraft, and to be completely honest with you, I've never handled one. I've like not been, no one's ever handed me one, but for everything I hear is they're one of the best values in the slip joint game. I don't love all their designs. Like sometimes they go a little far off the reservation. I'm more traditional. Like, you know, you see my stuff is typically looks like a traditional knife. Like they have a big choil in one of them, and another one's got a pry bar on the bottom. I'm like, those are not things I would do. So they don't, I'm not attracted to that, but I see why guys like it, you know.
I think that Rosecraft occupies a particular space in the market, and I think that space that they occupy, they do it very well. You know what I mean? And they're in a different space than Jack Wolf knives.
Totally.
But,
they're in the same space as Rough Rider Reserve. I feel like that's kind of who they're competing with. And you know what? They were smart to enter that space because Rough Rider and Rough Rider Reserve kind of had that space all to themselves, really.
Yeah. Right.
And like Case is in that price point, but man, I don't like to badmouth anybody, but like I think Case does a pretty good job of like stinking up the place all on their own. You know, some of those knives are depressing. Now they're Tony Bowes collaboration knives. Those are dope. Those are dope. So
and
dope.
You know what? I think most people that love Case knives would agree with you. And I think a lot of us love Case knives, but they're hit or miss. You know what I mean? And that's, you know what I mean? Sometimes you're going to get one and the fit and finish is just going to be complete shit. And that's part of it, you know, and that's too bad.
I understand that. Now I go to the Great Eastern Cutlery Rendezvous. I've been the last, I think 3 years in a row. And this guy, Brian Banks, he's on Facebook. He's a sharpener, but he's a vintage case collector. And I bought two. It's the first. I don't shop vintage knives typically, but I bought two from him. One was a single bladed doctor's knife, and one was a boy's knife. And one was from 1970, and one was like pre 1960 or whatever.
Right.
Dude, those things were amazing. They're amazing. They look handmade. They are quality knives. And when you looked at that versus like that Seahorse Whittler I bought on Amazon where the shield fell out, I was like, I see why people are disappointed because this is what they used to get, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think with Case still, if you get a really good one, especially one of their bone covers, because they do their bone really well, when you get a good one, it's worth a lot more than what you pay for. It's just there's more bad than good out there. You know, I think their best quality is right up there with GC, but that's 1 in 10, 1 in 20 knives that ship.
Yeah, that's fair. That's tough because, you know, who wants to gamble? I mean, even if it's a $50, $75 knife, like you want to have the like, you know, every company can put something out that the company wish didn't get in the customer's hands, but like you want that to be the exception and not the rule, you know?
Right.
And sadly, it's a lot of times it's the rule. And the other thing is, you know, it's USA, it's USA made, right? And we want those USA made knives to be a step above, and a lot of times they're not. And that said, yes, it's an IPA. Rich on the.
I pinned it and I was still surprised. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's an IPA.
Yeah, I would love to see Case make quality knives consistently. I'd love to see that. You know, I like slip joint knives. I think they're awesome. I want everybody making slip joint knives to make the best slip joint knives they can make. I want knife collectors who feel like they have no interest in it to eventually take their collecting journey there. And the worst way to turn them off is they don't know any better. They order one off Smoky Mountain Knife Works or whatever, and they get a piece of crap and they're like, damn, I knew it. I knew it. These are junk. My grandpa's knives were junk. These are junk,
Right.
Versus you put one in their hand that's quality and you're like, oh my gosh, like there's hundreds of years of tradition in this and pride in craftsmanship. And this is so different from all my modern folders. Like, like what else is out there like this? And then you lift up the rug and it's like, holy shit, dude, I hope I got some time to spare because this rabbit hole is deep.
Yeah, and it definitely works like that. I think for our mostly modern guys, I didn't get into slip joints until Blade Show Atlanta. I picked up my first real slip joint was the Notorious EDC Kingpin from Tom, and was really into that. Didn't think much of it. Then we connected over like REs of all things. I think you reached out to me initially about Ranger Eyes, and I thought that was super cool that you're like in the community. I talked to some like knife companies where they're like, what do you carry? And they're like literally only their own knife. They don't care about anything else going on in the community. And I was like, was super into that. And so started handling a few of them. And then I started going back into the traditional construction, even picking up like vintage stuff, and went from, 5 slip joints in June of last year to about 100 now. So
I love it.
Definitely works that way.
You're starting to go down that fixed blade rabbit hole too. I see a little bit.
Yeah. I think, man, that's just it. Like there's all these cool niches and every niche has history and like a story to tell and cool things to discover. And it's like, you want the quality to be there and the excitement to be there. So when someone discovers this niche, like they want to go tell someone else. Like that's what makes our hobby live on. And a lot of the slip joint stuff like fell out of favor big time. I mean, like people say like, oh, there's this slip joint fad right now. It's like, if you look at the big picture, there's actually a modern knife fad going on right now because slip joints were popular for several hundred years before Spyderco and Benchmade started making these modern folders. But like, I digress, but it's like, if you don't want this art form to essentially die, like a lot of these makers who are making these customs are older dudes, So it's like, we need younger guys to get excited about these and to want to learn how to make them and to make them that appeal to today's crowd. So that was really my thought, was like, how do I get modern knife guys to get stoked about slip joints?
Yeah. Are there any patterns that you have not attempted yet that you kind of want to tackle in the future?
There's a couple I've had a hard time executing. And to be honest with you, my design time has been greatly reduced due to just the effort it takes to continue to deliver knives, So it's at this point, it's just mostly because of a lack of the resources I'm committing to design versus not being able to do it. But I wanted to do an equal end, like do I have an equal end? I don't. It's like a cigar pattern. I really wanted to do something like that, just kind of like a Swiss Army knife,
Yeah.
And every time I would draw that thing, dude, it would look terrible. The blade to handle ratio was crap. And I don't know, that one whooped my butt, dude.
Yeah.
And I think I'd maybe like to do a serpentine pattern, like a classic serpentine. I'm getting a lot of requests for hawk bills. I'm getting a lot of requests for tontos. I'm elephant toes. I'm careful about going too far out of the mainstream with the patterns because I'm not set up for like, oh, we're going to make 50 of these and sell them and that's it. Like I can't do that. I've got to make bigger batches because I have dealers to get knives out to, and I can't do the obscure stuff.
So you mentioned that design time is kind of at a premium now. There was a question that came up earlier, and I think it was from Randy, who's moderating for us tonight. What about collaborations? Will you ever collaborate with a designer, or is it just going to be all your designs? What do you think about that?
That's a really interesting question. I don't know. I would like to consider something like that. Like when so you can analyze something in a vacuum. Like you could say to yourself, oh, it'd be really cool to collaborate. Okay, but the devil's in the details on that.
Right.
And so how does the collaborative design process work? what's the finances of that? Like, how does the economics of that work? And then it's like, how do we make this consistent with our brand image? Because one thing that I've worked really hard on would be to say, like, let's say you put 20 knives on the table and you could not see a single maker's mark on them. Can you pick out the Jack Wolf knives out of there? You know, even if you've never seen any of these knives before, could you be like, those 3 or 4 look like they're from the same company? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I put a lot of focus and attention on that. Well, okay, take someone's designs who are very different from mine. Like, I'm friends with Israel Backus, Arcane. Like, I don't think our 2 knives could be much different, you know? So like, if Jack Wolf Knives just had a knife that looked like the Creature, I mean, I could do it, but is that the most logical thing to do? I don't know. You know,
Right.
I don't know. You have to figure out, because not only do you have to know how to market it and get people to accept what you're doing and get excited about what you're doing. And if you go off brand too far, people don't get it, you know?
Right.
I like that. I don't know how to say this any other way, but I like that you're very brand conscious. I've gotten that from this discussion with you, and I like that. I don't know any other way to put it. What about multi-bladed patterns? Is there any of that in the future?
So, I mean, it's on my to-do list because it's a project. It's not low-hanging fruit for me, because it's got it. First of all, I've never designed one. Now, I know I could figure it out because it's not anything totally crazy off the beaten path from what I'm doing, but it's either got 1 spring or 2 springs. And now you've got a second tool, and it's thicker and it weighs more and it's more expensive. And the market's always going to be smaller for a multi-blade than a single blade. So do I invest the time in a project like that? Or do I invest the time rolling out more locking knives based on my single bladed slip joints, which are really popular right now? I mean, that's an easy choice for me. You know, over the time I have available, I'm trying to develop, which is essentially phase 2 here of growth, create a slip joint line, create the locking knife line. And then where do I go from there? I've got some ideas, but this stuff can't happen overnight. You know,
it
takes a long time to go from the time you conceptualize something till the time I deliver it to market. Over 12 months for sure. You know, design
and
time.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say 2024. Do you know the entire schedule through December already?
Almost. I mean, pretty soon we'll be all the way committed through November.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's scary, dude, because I'm making decisions now and I won't see the repercussions of those decisions for months.
You don't get the data on, like, okay, this new cover material I'm trying out, if it performs well, until it's already in production.
Exactly. Or, okay, we did it. It was well received. Okay, by the time I slot it in again, people are over it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like that part's really hard. Like, you don't snap your fingers and the knives show up. You make a decision, and sometimes 6 months later, 9 months later, you know, the knives are showing up. It's like, oh man.
Right. I'm going to bundle a bunch that I saw in the chat, because I think most of these are going to be quick hitters. Serrated blades, fixed blades, hidden release, and balisong. Yes, no, maybe.
Serrated blades. I like serrated blades. I don't think there's a huge market for them, so that would not be a priority. Fixed blades, I like fixed blades. It's a project because new packaging, new sheath, big fixed blade, small fixed blade, blade shape, handle material. It's a project. But like, what would a knife company with a robust catalog be without fixed blades? So let's just call that to be continued. What else did you say? Balisong. You can't import them. You can't import them, as far as I know. I mean, you know, there's rules against balisongs and switchblades. And I don't know the first thing about a balisong. So I like to work on what I get excited about, because then I'm able to commit the tremendous mental, you know, fortitude necessary to get this shit done.
Right.
You know,
And then the last one was hidden release, which is probably the same answer, since it's an auto, unless you wanted to collab with like
hidden release. I mean, look, one thing I try to be really good at is keeping secrets. So I'm not going to tell you guys what's coming next. I'm not going to tell you I'm not going to give you anything definitive. I will say, like, I have sprinkled in new things here and there. So why would I not going forwards? Like, if anything, I like to make my life hard and create a lot of work for myself all the time.
Yeah.
So, that's what new projects are.
So real quick, you mentioned the market for multi-blade patterns. Are you a jackknife guy or do you like multi-blade patterns? I'm a jackknife guy. Every blade over 2, I like the knife less and less. That's just me. Are you the same way?
I can appreciate the art form of the multi-blade knife. I like to own some examples. I typically do not carry them. It's my lifestyle. I mean, dude, the most I'm cutting typically is an Amazon box open. Let's face it. I work in an office. Every once in a while, like, you got to cut up some boxes or do some work, but like, that's my life. Now, the multi-blade knife originally was for the guy out in the field, and you didn't have to sharpen it every time when you could blow through 3 of them and then sharpen 3 of them. Or like, this one's for cutting the nuts off the cow, and then this one's for cutting your apple.
Right.
So practically speaking, I don't have any use for a multi-blade. I do appreciate them.
Yeah. All right. Jake, what you got?
Well, we're running a little bit over on time. Want to be respectful of your time. Do you have time to stick around for a little bit more? Want to field some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, we have a bunch on the script, but I think we're getting a lot of good interaction from the chat too. So want to get them as many questions as possible. One that Tyler Williams Knives had, I think you might have seen this one already, but I thought was pretty funny. He's always wanted to ask if you'd be willing to put out a bad or mediocre knife design so you can give his wallet a break for a month.
The thing that keeps me up at night is, am I going to do that? Because I'm trying not to the best I can, man. I'm trying not to. Sorry.
Yep.
Is there, I know that you sort of answered this before when we talked about the tube. Is there a Jack Wolf knife that you kind of like more than others, that maybe you carry more than others? Not your favorite, but
I understand what you're saying. So I've made my carry rotation a lot easier because I have knives coming just about every month, more or less. And so I need to be able to I'm very familiar with them because I design them and prototype them, but the one I'm dropping, I carry it that month. So 3 weeks of that knife, rotating through the different handle materials. And then for about a week, I'll go back and grab some of the old ones. I find myself gravitating towards clip points. Typically, I just like them, but I don't want a collection full of clip points. I think my catalog is heavy on clip points, but that reflects my taste.
Yeah.
Right.
So you showed us some modern knives, some Sabenzas. What does your daily carry, your everyday carry look like? Are we talking just a slip joint, or do we have a slip joint, a modern knife, a pouch, a hank, a Zippo? What's it look like for Ben Belkin?
Yeah, I'm pretty minimalistic. I don't like a bunch of stuff in my pockets. I'm like wound pretty tight. So if things are touching me or heavy, I get anxious. You know what I mean? I have my wallet. I keep it very thin. I've got my AirPods. I use them every single day. I've got a Jack Wolf knife and a leather slip. Sometimes one of my slips, sometimes a slip from Troy or Taylor Cortez. I don't carry 2 knives. I just carry one. My cell phone, my car keys. That's it. And, I carry on and off with a handgun. Sometimes I carry one every day for a while. And then I'm like, this thing's driving me crazy. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm like, oh, it's heavy. It's like I'm fidgeting with it all the time. And so I
used to carry a 9mm every single day. And now it's just the LCP Max, the little 380 in the front pocket sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I would love to be like, yeah, dude, every day, 24/7, even in the shower. I got my AK in the shower. But I live a pretty regimented life. Like, I'm home before it gets dark typically, and I don't venture into neighborhoods that are typically unsafe, and I'm just very regimented. So my life is predictable. So my surroundings are usually predictable. Same gas station, same Chipotle every day for lunch, like very, very consistent.
Right.
Yeah.
Did they end up
Kinda boring.
finalizing the rendezvous this year? Is it the same weekend as Atlanta?
So I'm in this unofficial Facebook group for it, and as far as I know, it's the same damn weekend, which
Yeah,
is
it's
a
unfortunate.
bummer. But man, I'll tell you what, like I am smoked from doing those two things back to back. It's brutal
Right.
for me. So part of me would be relieved a little bit, but the other part of me is going to be like, damn, because I really like going there. It's such a if anybody's not been to Northwest Pennsylvania, like it's beautiful. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and that time of the year is perfect.
Right. What's your show lineup look like this year? I know I'm seeing you in a
So,
couple weeks, but
yep, February 10th, we're at CCKS, and Blade, Texas, February 22nd, I think. It's that weekend.
yeah, 22nd through 24th.
Yep. So we'll be there, and the map's out and everything, so you can see where we're at. And then Blade Show in Atlanta, that's in June 7th and 8th or something like that. And then I'll do CCKS in the fall. I'll do Blade West in October. And then those are for sure's. And maybe I'll squeeze in another one.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm in Phoenix. I'm in Phoenix, yeah.
So the locking models. So you've said you're a slip joint guy first. What about the locking models? Was that always part of the plan, or did that come from, consumer feedback?
Well, so yes, part of the plan, like it's Jack Wolf knives, not Jack Wolf slip joints,
Okay. Yeah.
But I wanted to start with what I knew best and where I saw an opportunity to create a niche, like carve my own little place. Because I didn't really, like people were looking at me like, dude, you're crazy. That's too expensive. People don't want to pay that much for a slip joint. And I'm just like, I feel differently because to get the quality that I'm trying to sell, I have to pay twice as much, or pay the same amount for a marked up Great Eastern. So anyway, but I love all knives, man. Look, this is the last knife I bought. I saw Jeremiah from PVK put these things up on Instagram, and I was like, oh my God, I have not wanted a knife this bad, and I don't know how long, and I don't know why I want it, but I just have to have it. And if you look at this thing, dude, it is a traditional knife. Look at this.
Yeah.
Ram's
yeah,
horn,
sure.
brass liners, pinned construction, old-fashioned design. So, and it's huge.
Yeah, that's a beast.
That's awesome.
I love the bayonet grind.
Yeah.
So anyway, I say that because I love knives. Now, the modern folder market is way bigger. I bet you for every 99 modern folders, one slip joint is sold. It could be that much bigger. I don't know. At least 10 to 1, maybe not 99 to 1, but at least 10 to 1. But of course, there's way more competition. So it's like, if I can make this succeed, then I will go here. And it gives me some time to think about what this is going to look like,
Right.
But it took me over a year to conceptualize, prototype, and bring that gunslinger to market. I worked on that.
I was going to say, is that a little bit tougher than the slip joints? Because all of the rest have similar mechanisms. Obviously, the handle shape and the blade shape kind of dictate what that looks like. But with the gunslinger and the after hours, it's a completely different, just how it operates. Was there like a new learning curve? Did you work with someone to figure that out?
Yes. That's a really good question. So a couple things about that. So in order to get that brand continuity, that is really important to me. The stepping stone was like, let's take our designs and let's convert them. Now, I'm not the first one to have a modern traditional in a locking knife, me stealing from Enrique some more, like his X series that Riot made. They're amazing,
Right.
and, I didn't want my stuff to be, I tried to make mine as different from his as I could, Now, as far as designing the mechanism and everything, like I took apart every modern knife I own. Like you kind of understand how they work. They're not super complicated,
Right.
but drawing them, I was struggling with. So my friend Chris Ortiz, which is Cerberus Knives, he makes those dope little fixed blades, and he's got some designs that Artisan has made.
The Riot and the Satire, I think.
Yep. And the Aryan
satire.
satyr.
Yeah,
The
satyr.
satyr. And then the Aryan is the artisan folder, I
Yeah,
think.
that's right.
And so anyway, we became friends a couple years ago, and like we kind of trade what's the word I'm looking for? Like intellectual property with each other. Like, you know, he's in his 20s, I'm over 40, and I've got a lot more years of business experience. So it's like I'll mentor you on how to think about running your business, how to set up a plan, how to keep track of everything, how to feel like you're not just spinning in place. So like I give him lessons on that stuff, and then he gives me lessons on designing modern folders. And he does some CAD work for me, 3D CAD work that I don't know how to do. So I've really relied on, like, that's what's great about this industry is that people are so freaking cool. You know, it's not about like, hey, I'm going to swipe the table, stab you in the back on your way out, on my way out. It's not like Wall Street, you know,
Right.
like people want to see each other succeed. Everybody, I think the common thread is actually like creativity and artistic expression. I think that's the thread that binds everybody in this game.
Right.
Because we're all trying to express ourselves creatively and artistically, and like cutthroat competition stifles that and is the enemy of that, I think, honestly.
Right.
So I'm on a tangent there, but I couldn't have done it without inspiration from what Enrique did and without the help from Chris, and then really taking the time to think critically about how can I make this uniquely mine? And so it was decisions like the full-length backspacer, the anodized backspacer and clip, the removable clip, so you could put the plug in it and carry it in a slip. Because I'm like, I don't typically like to pocket clip carry stuff. So if I'm going to make these knives, I got to be able to carry it in my pocket, or else I'm not doing it, you know?
Right.
So that little feature kind of came out of necessity.
Yeah. Are you a skiff, or do you leave it at bearings?
I just leave them in there. I don't put the skiffs in. They're fine without them, you know? And I tell people just as much when they call me, but dude, everybody, you know, likes upgrades. So I'll sell you skiffs, and maybe some knives they'll help, but
right. I didn't notice that significant.
Yeah. It's that whole diminishing return thing. Like you want to buy a $15 set of bearings to get a little bit more performance. I'm not going to tell you, no, it's your knife, dude. Have it your way.
Yeah, I left my gunslinger stock and then put skiff on the after hours, and it wasn't a huge difference. I mean, it's a little bit smoother, but it was already smooth to begin with. So
yeah. I mean, I'll never tell someone don't do it. You know, I don't. You know, now if I was trying to troubleshoot something, maybe I would install a pair to see if I can get a desired result. And some people just like to tinker. You know, it's like, give me something to install in this thing. Okay, here you go, dude. Have at it. You know, it's like a learning experience. But
did I hear you whisper lefty while you were saying that? Or?
Yeah, dude, lefty. That guy cannot help himself. He will take apart anything. Like he gets the idea in his head and he can't let it go.
Yeah, and I think he does skip in all of them. You know, anything that can take him, he'll put them in. So.
Yep.
I think it's interesting that you've mentioned Enrique so many times. We had Andy Armstrong from Rosecraft Blades last week, and he mentioned Enrique several times too. So he's obviously had a big influence on a lot of people.
That dude is great, man. He's super nice. He's just super talented. He's like one of these dudes that can make crazy modern knives, crazy slip joint knives. Like he's made ballast songs. Like, he was a diesel mechanic before he started making knives. So he's really, you know, good with his hands and mechanically minded.
Right.
I don't know. Just a master. I just have a tremendous amount of respect for him.
Yeah. What was that knife he did with Superlative that has like the magnets and the whole handle, almost butterflies, but it's not a butterfly?
The Piranha.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
This thing is insane.
Yeah. So it's like totally, it's got the handles pivot around the pivot and then close on a magnet.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. And they're doing, man, I love what those guys are doing. It makes me jealous. Like they do floating backspacers, you know, they do these crazy inlays. And if you guys don't follow Javi Garcia, you need to pay attention to what he's doing, because he and I go way back to the slip joint collecting days. And he's been training under Enrique for several years now. And so now Javi's making custom slip joints that are blow the doors off. Sick. Just sick.
Yeah. I love the mutant shields that they're doing too. I think that was just like such a cool thing.
Yep. Yeah. There's those guys, Jared, Enrique, Javi, and then Evan. Nick, Romano, Ryu, Jim Dunlap. There's a bunch of these other guys too, and they're super cool. It's just so different. You go look at those and then go look at an Emerson. It's like, these could not be more different.
Right.
They literally could. And it's not that I'm not comparing them for the sake of one being better or worse. They're just different. And you know what? If you can open your mind up, you might love them all.
Right. Yeah. HT asked, any new blade steels on the horizon?
That's an interesting question. I'm like the last guy to be a steel snob. I mean, the majority of my collection is either 1095 or CPM 154. And I don't ever want more than what that provides personally. And I'm spoiled. I don't even sharpen my own knives because I share office space, shop space with Corey Dunlap, who's a friend of mine for 20 years. He's a master sharpener and a bladesmith. So it's like, I don't get annoyed that I'm sharpening this all the time because he does it for me. Yeah, it's like he gives me a special price and it's all good. However, I also make knives for the market. Like, I understand that. And the switch from M390 to S90V was driven really by two things. One, I had no issues with the performance of M390 is great, but people collect and they like variety in their collection. And M390 has been widely available for a long time. So people just be like, oh man, not another M390 knife. It's like, I get it. You don't really care about the performance. You just don't want something else that's the same.
Right. And
I'm like, but I can't pick a steel that doesn't make sense for a slip joint. So I started doing the research because I'm not super up on that. So I did all the homework. I'm like, holy shit, S90V is like perfect for these knives. Like, excellent edge retention, good corrosion resistance, maybe not the toughest in the world, but pretty sure guys aren't beating the crap out of these things. Certainly shouldn't be,
Right.
And so I'm really happy with it. And the results have been amazing. Now, to answer his question, would I do other variants? I get a lot of requests for K390. It's a logical steel because guys want something to take a patina.
Right.
I don't know if I would do like a full batch out of it. I don't even know if the manufacturer can get it. Now, I can ship handle material over there. That's one thing, but shipping steel over there is a whole nother beast because it's super heavy and the tariffs are really, really high. So like ordering a small batch of K390 to send it over there is not economically feasible. So even assuming they can get the stuff, do you have experience working with it? Because you know what? If anything can go wrong, it's getting the heat treat right and then having it not warp and being able to make those knives without things twisting and warping. So like if I'm going to push the manufacturer to do something they haven't done before, I'd much rather it be on let's try a new handle material than, hey, let's experiment with a new blade steel. So if I was to do it, it'd have to be prototyped, vetted, and then maybe like if they'd even do it, if I had 5 variants, one of the 5 variants would feature something that patinas, But like the effort it takes to go through that, the juice isn't worth the squeeze for me right now. I got too much else to do.
Right. And yeah, I think that's probably part of this question that Beaver Baron's asking. Who do you think buys the most? Collectors or just normal dude who carries one knife and wants it to last forever?
That's a really interesting question.
I think those are probably the people that want that K390. They want something patina, shows the character from their days and days of character.
Yeah, and maybe it's the traditional knife guy who is attracted to the knife that patinas, but who do I think buys the most knives from me? I think modern knife guys are buying the most knives from me. I thought in the beginning it would be the slip joint guys. That was one of my estimates that was off because I think my stuff for a lot of those guys is a bridge too far. Price, maybe, but aesthetics, definitely. Like I like warm. I like brass. I like nickel silver. I don't like screws. I don't like belt satin. Like I don't like fancy carbon fiber. I want wood. I want dyed jigged bone. Like that's a bridge too far, which is the reason why modern knife guys aren't buying a lot of traditional knives because that's a bridge too far. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put that island right in between the two bridges, but I think I appeal more to the modern knife guy who loves blasted titanium, who loves S90V, who loves a belt satin, who loves fat carbon.
Right.
and is like, dude, I would never give a slip joint a second look, but dude, I'm drooling over that and I don't even know why. I got to get one, you know? And then
Right.
you hook them with the walk and talk and it's on at that point,
Right.
you know?
Was
Like,
the oh good. Was the fat carbon a surprise to you? How popular that
totally,
was?
dude.
Because the early models didn't have that much, right?
No, I had 1 out of 4 and I had to charge more for it. And I was like, man, are people going to buy that one? That was another thing
Right.
I was off on, like way off on that. I had that backwards, dude, you know, and it was like, okay, the carbon fiber one just sold out in like a half hour. Like, holy shit. You know, I'm like, I went about this all wrong. And of course, at that point, I'd already committed to the first 6 batches. So there was like, I can't even fix this until month 7, you know? So, but, and I'll tell you what, I'll tell you what's great about it. Number one, I really like it because I like colorful and I like things that are outside of normal, because look at my collector journey. Like, I've been there and I've done that with a lot of this stuff for over well over a decade. So now if I'm going to produce these things, like, I'm kind of aiming for what's out there, but trying to keep it reined in enough, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
My balance is the patterns and the designs are traditional, but the materials are getting more and more out there.
Right.
But what's great about carbon fiber, dude, is it does not shrink. It does not swell. You can machine it like to this insane level of precision. So from a manufacturing standpoint, dude, I don't think anything's better, honestly.
Really?
God, it's perfect. It's perfect.
That's interesting. What about acrylic? Has that been as popular? For me, it's like my favorite. Any acrylic,
Dude.
that's the one I'm going for. But I don't know if that's
Me
just
too.
me or if it's
been the most popular one every single time
Really?
I've done it. Every single time. And I like, again, like that was, you know, Kieranite is on traditional knives. Like, that's where you typically see it. And I'm like, are these guys going to like that? The answer was yes. The answer was a resounding yes. And the first time I got prototypes back from the factory, I guess they didn't know the right way to finish it because it was all scratchy looking and shit. I'm like, what is this? Like, no, this can't look like this. I'm like, I don't care what it costs. Charge me more, but make it polish it. Like, make it look reflective and wet, you know, make it look wet when it's dry, basically.
Yeah.
And once they sent back a good one, I was like, that's it.
That's interesting. Yeah. For me, that one's like, on a traditional slip joint, I wouldn't be going after that. I want natural materials, but on a modern, I want something just out there and bright and weird and just hits all those marks.
Totally. I think the kind of the equation for people has been like, especially for the modern guys who aren't going to go all in on this collection yet. Okay, I'm going to get one. I don't own a slip joint, but this really appeals to me and I like high quality folders, so I want a high quality slip joint. If I'm going to get one, I'm going to get the crazy one. You know, I'm going to get the loud one. And then they get it and they're like, some of them are like, this isn't for me. I mean, I get it. It's not for everybody. But then some of them are like, holy shit, this is awesome. Like, this is everything I need and nothing I don't. You know, it's not overbuilt. And you know what? This thing cuts better than pretty much my whole collection. Imagine that. You know,
That's awesome.
This hollow grind, thin behind the edge, it slices like a son of a bitch. And it's light and it fits my hand and it's nothing more. I don't need anything more than this. It gets you.
I love it.
Micro lamb is expensive. That stuff's expensive, but that stuff is sweet.
I don't know what that is. I love it when a modern knife guy experiences a good walk and talk for the very first time. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is the original fidget factor. And there's been a lot of guys that subscribe to my channel that are modern knife guys that I've sort of introduced to slip joints that have experienced walk and talk for the first time. And I just love it when they experience a good walk and talk.
Absolutely. Like, if someone ever says slip joints aren't fidgety, it's like I die a little inside. I'm like, what?
Yeah, right.
You know, I was like, I don't want to say it's dumb. It's like, you simply don't know. Yeah, and it's a two-handed thing, and there's feedback from the spring, and it's just so different. Like a modern knife, you put force into it, and off it goes. But a slip joint, like, you take it there, and
Yeah.
there's resistance, and then it lets go, and it's a two-handed deal, and oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
Right.
it is so good.
Dave was asking, does Jack Wolf ship to Canada or have retailers in Canada?
So I'm talking right now to House of Knives. They're out of BC, but they have stores all over Canada, and we're working through the details. So hopefully the next batch goes to Canada. No promises yet, because I got to hear back from them. And the dude who's in charge over there was at SHOT Show last week, so he was on Obtainium, the whole week. So just cross your fingers, man. We go to House of Knives now. I think the initial quantities will be small. So if you guys want more Jack Wolf knives to go there, support them and pick them up, because that's how it's going to grow over there.
Awesome.
But I will say this, that there are U.S. dealers who will ship to Canada, and I'm not going to make any promises, but the slip joints have not had a problem making it through customs. It's locking knives, from what I understand, are iffy with your guys' customs.
Right.
I don't know, Randy, if they're going to order more from me. Like, they went to a big employee turnover thing. Like, the rep I was talking to no longer worked there. And then the next person I talked to, and then they're no longer working there. And, I got some mixed messaging. Oh, we're going to do all this marketing for you. And then it was like, yeah, we're really going to focus on our core brands. And I'm just like, you guys are corporate America, and, no surprises there with how that
Right.
goes. I gained a really strong appreciation for my mom and pop authorized dealer network. And even like what we consider the big stores like Blade HQ and Knife Center, DLT, they're not big compared to like Sportsman's Warehouse big. Like, it's a publicly traded company,
Right.
Yeah.
And so working with people who I can like pick up the phone and talk to a decision maker that's really important on the business side.
Right. And there was a little bit of struggle with that one too. I know I saw like people posting about, oh, people were handling my knives, selling store displays, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah. Oh,
weren't
I got the
packaged
knife
like
in the
our
mail.
typical.
Yeah. It's like, I got the knife in the mail. They put the box in the tube in a bubble mailer, and it's got smashed. And then my knife has a freaking barcode sticker on the carbon fiber, and it's all snail trailed. It's like, yeah, because they just pulled it out of the display after it's been manhandled for a month and threw it in a bubble mailer and mailed it to you, because they don't care about you the way my mom and pop guys would,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Of course you want the brand to get out there, and you want to be in some brick and mortar places, because I think the knives present really well in a brick and mortar. But the downside of that is it's a big box store. So,
Right. And I know we got to get wrapping up on time. So last question for me, and then I'll pass it off to Tim. But are you trying to work with more retailers, or are you really at capacity where you don't have the numbers to send it to them anyway?
No, there's like all things, there's a diminishing return as you branch out. Right. So you have dealers who have been with me since the beginning. They've established people who are buying from them. And then you add someone on the back end, and it's always going to be they're always at a disadvantage because now they're trying to reach customers who haven't heard about me yet or aren't buying from someone else. They're trying to earn the business away from someone else. So in an effort to keep the quality and keep the family like tight, I'm not really looking for new retailers. In fact, I have a list of people who contact me. Now, that's not to say I wouldn't add someone if I feel like they're the right fit. Now, internationally, I'm still considering new markets, because like someone might contact me from some other country and I'm not represented there at all. Like, we recently added Brazil in November, and it's like, okay, I'm not really in South America, and Brazil's got a lot of people,
Right.
And so, and they have a huge knife culture in Brazil. Slip joint culture, in fact. So that made sense, Yeah,
that's interesting. I know I said it was my last question, but I know in America, at least, you can't really market knives. So is it the same strategy in Brazil, or is there not really that like YouTube community to help get the name out there?
No, I've actually got It's pretty much the same. Like I've got everyday carry Brazil with an S. Brazil is how they spell it. Awesome content, high quality pictures, high quality reels, YouTube channel. So I picked him up as an influencer. Then I just got a message in my inbox from another dude. And then the dealer himself, which is Facas, F-A-C-A-S. That's knives in Portuguese. Facas HQ. That's the
Ooh, I
name
like
of the
that
store.
better than knives.
It's fucking hilarious. Facas HQ. So they do a good job on social media, but no paid ads, dude. It's all grassroots. Everything we do is grassroots.
Right.
Yeah, I've got nothing else. Is there anything else you want to promote or mention or talk about, Ben? I will give you the last word.
Sure. So we made available, I'll show it one more time, our second commemorative coin.
Yeah, it's awesome.
These are available exclusively at jackwolfknives.com. They're $13.99 plus shipping. Will get you out the door under 20 domestically with first class mail. And it's not real copper. It's like a zinc alloy, but it's got that kind of aged copper look.
Yeah,
it's
awesome.
thick. It's really nice. So scoop one of these. I mean, we've sold at least a third of them already. I haven't checked. So that's cool. And then we were commemorating, by the way, 20,000 Instagram followers. So there's 20K. And it's got the Facebook group, which I'll plug, Jack Wolf Knives Worldwide. We have an amazing Facebook group. No drama, no BS. I don't like that. There's all that crap in a million other places on Facebook. So our group is just good vibes. Yeah. And follow me on jackwolfknives.com. I would recommend, if you're into my stuff, sign up for my newsletter at the bottom of the website. I don't spam the hell out of you. You'll get a couple 2 to 4 emails a month, just product launch notifications and stuff like that we're doing. And last, one of my goals for 2024 is to beef up my ancillary products. So hanks, coins, leather slips, patches. That's where some of my attention is going for this year.
Awesome.
T-shirts.
Love it. I need to get a t-shirt at CCKS.
Yeah. I don't typically bring them, but if you want me to, just send me a message. I'll bring you one, Jake.
All right, for sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Cool.
No problem. Someone said, where do I get the coin? jackwolfknives.com is where the coin is.
Yeah, and Randy did link that.
Oh yeah, there it is. No, that's the
Oh, that's the Facebook group one. This one.
Yeah, that was the one that's sold out. Yeah.
Here, I think I have it. Hold on, one sec. Well, this is just both coins actually. It's the coin page.
Yeah, you can go to the coin collection.
Yeah,
that's it. Cool. Hey, thank you guys, man. I really appreciate you guys giving me the chance to talk to your audience, and I'm glad to see you guys doing this.
Yeah, definitely.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. We have a ton of questions left over, so maybe we can do a second one of these one day. We'll end the stream here, but we'll stay online for just a few more minutes after this one.
Cool.
So, thanks, everyone.
And thanks, guys.
Go for it.
Thank you, Ben. Thanks for joining us.
Do you have something else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I was going to say, anytime you guys want me, I'll never turn you down.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
You've
Thanks,
been
everyone.
awesome, brother.
There it is.
Yeah.